Hi, welcome to a customer spotlight on how to scale your process from a single team to your entire company. My name's Brian. I'm a senior manager of product marketing here, and I work with our customers who are looking to scale their processes and programs to more stakeholders, more business output across more platforms to really make a big transformational change in their organization. Today, we're going to look at a practical example of how one of our customers has done this in the real world using Control Center, our Salesforce connector, Bridge, and announced today, Work Apps. In a second, I'm going to introduce Rachel, but I want to kind of set a couple of logistics before we get going into the event. So these recordings will all be available after the event, but there is a live chat. So if you do have any questions about any of the products, any of the concepts you see here, there are real humans standing by that'll be happy to talk to you via the chat in your window there. And a couple things the lawyers have asked me to say: this presentation may contain forward-looking statements, and any trademarks that you see in here do not convey endorsement of Smartsheet. So let's recap the day a little bit and set some context for the conversation that we're about to have. So we started out the day with Ben and Tony, who shared some exciting announcements with you and recapped some cool stuff that we saw, like Bridge. The idea here was to familiarize yourself with some of these products that really help us scale our business programs. And as I mentioned, there's kind of three big areas that we're looking at there. It's the output and people, it's the platforms that those processes run on, and it's the organizational change that we're really trying to impact. Following that, Rashmi gave us a demo of Dynamic View and using forms to feed multi-step processes and really helping people understand where they are in their requests to your teams and how you can respond to those in an organized fashion. The big news of the day, Rekha came out in the next session on this track and showed the builder experience for Work Apps. And we're going to look at a Work App today, but the idea there being you can package your sheets, your dashboards, your forms, all the work that you're doing in Smartsheet and beyond Smartsheet into one really intuitive, easy to consume application for your program constituents. We talked to Bob. Bob came in from Edinburgh and talked about the connectors and data uploader and how we can share data across platforms. And then we wrapped up that last session with Ingrid, who showed us how we can use Bridge to not only share data across platforms, but also trigger actions. When something happens in Smartsheet, let's trigger an action on that system that's outside of Smartsheet, or vice versa. When something happens out there, let's trigger an action over here on Bridge. We're going to take a look at all of these products and all these concepts today in a real world example with our friends from Modus. Modus is a software as a service provider that helps companies manage their fleet vehicles, reimburse employees for their mileage, and generate actionable BI on their operations. 86% of their customers have found significant cost savings, and 91% saw a return on their investment in 6 to 12 months, and that's validated by an outside source. They have 98.5% customer retention, and they've been featured in Forbes, Compliance Week, Accounting Today, CIO Review, all over there. They're trusted by some of the world's most well-known brands, especially in transportation-heavy verticals like food and beverage, equipment manufacturing. If you think of the big branded trucks that you see on the highway, they work with a lot of those customers, and you can see those specific customers over on their website at modus.com. So today I'm joined by Rachel Sheely. Rachel is the Director of Professional Services and Customer Success. She's joining us today in this video call. Rachel, welcome to Engage 2020. Thank you so much for being here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role. Where are you in the world, and what does life look like for you right now?
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. Really excited to be here. So like you said, my name is Rachel Sheely. I'm the Director of Professional Services and Customer Success at Modus. I have the honor of leading a team of professional services individuals, 12 in total. They're a fantastic team. I could not be prouder of them. And our team encompasses 4 separate functional areas. So implementation, which is our customer onboarding activities, technical integrations and scoping, customer success, and customer training. I've been with the company coming up on 10 years, which is crazy. And the majority of my professional career has been in implementation and customer coaching activities. A personal aspect, I was born and raised just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so that's where I'm currently sitting. I have a wonderful husband and 2 amazing kids, Elise, who is 7, and Clayton, who's 5. And I guess a fun fact about me, I'm an avid runner, and I actually just ran my first full marathon this year, but it was actually virtual due to world events, which was pretty challenging. But I just see it as a challenge to have to sign up for another next year and hopefully take advantage of the full experience.
Well, congratulations on your first marathon. I think it's almost even a cooler experience, or at least a good story to have done it virtual. I didn't know you were a runner. That was actually my first love in the fitness world, and I've gotten back into it as the situation warrants these days. So thanks so much for being here. Tell me a little bit about what your team does. As I understand it, there's two sides of the work that you guys do, and we're going to look at both today.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of the heavy hitters of my team, which I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about the process that we follow, is our customer implementation and onboarding. So that team is primarily focused on all of our revenue generating projects, inclusive of new customers that have decided to join the Modus family. We manage them through the entire implementation lifecycle. The other aspect of the team is kind of the non-revenue generating side of things. So, those activities that need to happen post-implementation, inclusive of customer scoping activities. So if a customer is looking for a new solution or an additional solution to the services that they've purchased with us, another area of my team is responsible for going in, scoping that work, and putting together a project plan to manage it.
Okay, so a fair chunk of the customer lifecycle, from their first real interactions with your organization and implementing your software, all the way to what can we do next. Yep. So set the scene for me a little bit. We're going to hear about all the cool processes and programs that you guys have in place, but we also know that no business starts out there. Tell me a little bit about the challenges you guys were facing as part of your growth, and what was really the tipping point where you stepped back and you said, there has to be a better way to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very true. Where we are today is not where we were 2.5 years ago. So, as I talk about the process, it's really important for me also to remember that this is an iterative journey. What we started out with 2.5 years ago is completely different from where we are today in all, the best way possible. But about 2.5 years ago, Modus went through a merger. And at that time, the implementation team was faced with not only defining the process, but also defining a process that wouldn't result in increased headcount. So we needed to do a few things. We needed to define the process in order to scale with the growing business, along with providing reporting to internal stakeholders, along with also providing an exceptional experience to our customers. So it was a pretty multifaceted challenge that we experienced, or we were presented with. And what we sought to find was a solution that would really allow us to do it all. So scale, report efficiently, and provide a robust customer onboarding experience. So I'll talk more about specifically how we came to design a solution that did that. But the solution we put in place in early 2018 has really allowed the implementation team to scale and really handle everything the business has needed from us as the company grew tremendously. And so one thing that I've worked on professionally is also taking the success that we found with the implementation process and expanding it to other functional areas with the team, which is also where this becomes kind of an iterative process.
I suspect there's a lot of folks that have joined us today for Engage that saw a lot of familiarity with the statements you just made there. We've got a really complex process. We're going to merge that with another complex process. We need you to do it all with a seamless customer experience. And by the way, we don't have the headcount or the resources to really support the growing scope of work. So good luck. Somehow you made that happen, though. Give us a sneak peek into what the world looks like for you now. And then we're going to talk about how you got here.
Yeah, definitely. So the solution that we've put in place that really has truly allowed us to meet all of those objectives that I outlined and continue to elevate our process is use of the Smartsheet Salesforce connector and the use of Control Center to deploy customer projects. So I think those two things have really been a game changer for us in making sure that the team is able to scale and minimize as many of the kind of mundane administrative tasks to their work as possible so that they can focus on the true value add, which is the coaching and customer, the time that they're spending with their customers. So the process that we've put in place has allowed us to maintain robust reporting all the way through, not only at the individual project level for our customers and our implementation team to help them manage many projects in flight at once, but also a provisioning provisioning process that takes less than 2 minutes to launch all of those necessary components of the customer project plan, which then also leads to the roll-up reporting that we need for management and executive level reporting. So all the way through, the solution that we've designed allows us to meet all of those various aspects seamlessly.
Very cool. And for everyone that's joining us today, we do have another track here at the event that is on a project management organization and gives you kind of the basic level of, what do the projects look like? How do you use Control Center to scale that? Rachel's about to show you like the varsity level of what this process looks like. And it's really exciting. And Rachel, I got to tell you, I did another session over on that track with another PMO leader who is tremendous and has designed a really cool process. And I simplified his diagram quite a bit, as marketing guys tend to do. So if you're out there, Tim, sorry, Rachel's got an awesome diagram too. Walk us through what this looks like. Let's get into detail here, because I think there's a lot of folks that are here on the program with us today that really want to know, great, you use this, but what are you doing with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will try to keep this as high level as I can. There's obviously a lot that goes into this. And again, kind of the message of like, this was extremely iterative for us. We started out primarily focused on building the control center, the ability to provision projects dynamically. But since then, we've added a lot of different components to our process, specifically use of dynamic view to help us kind of view all of those in-flight project steps for one implementation manager. So let me kind of start at the beginning. So our company uses Salesforce for our CRM. And what happens is when a sales executive closes a deal, they update the opportunity to closed one in Salesforce. We then have a Salesforce Smartsheet connector workflow that's built, and it looks for specific logic. So the opportunity, of course, has to be in a closed status. There has to be an element of implementation required. And so provided, that logic is met, that project then gets added to our intake sheet. So kind of our master sheet that houses all of the implementation eligible projects. From there, myself or the team lead on my team will go through and, review who on our team has capacity to take that next project. So, you look at how large the project is, complexity level, and what the team's current capacity is at to determine which implementation manager should be assigned to that specific project. So once the project resource has been determined and assigned on the intake sheet, we then go into Control Center and provision the necessary set of blueprints to support that project. And one thing I will say is that's where we've seen probably the most amount of change and iteration in our process is the addition of blueprints or the addition of project templates. How do we get additional cell linking involved so that we can reduce the amount of data entry the team has to do, along with setting up automated alerts for our customers. So there have been a lot of improvements to the process over time that have really helped the team minimize the kind of manual steps that they have to take to manage the project. So once the project is provisioned through Control Center, again, just seamlessly creates all of our project plans, the underlying metadata sheet that has all of the corresponding project information, along with the customer dashboard. And the customer dashboard is what we show to the customer to help them see where they are in the implementation lifecycle. Once that happens, we then actually update stages on the intake sheet, which directly connect to the most recent addition to our process, which is Bridge. And I know I'll talk a little bit about that in the next few slides, but what Bridge has allowed us to do is then build in automated emails that get triggered based on the stage that project is. We do a call out through a SendGrid API to say when a project is in this status, send this specific email. And again, it really helps to keep the process moving for the team. It helps to just one less thing that they have to remember to do is send that particular email out. Now, we do use a number of other applications to help automate the process fully. So those include not only SendGrid, which is the mechanism that we're using for the automated emails, but we also use Survey Gizmo and Calendly. So Survey Gizmo is how we're gathering information about a customer before they have a meeting with the implementation team. It's really helped us to control a conversation with the customer up front, along with giving them kind of reassurance of the type of topics we're going to cover when we have that initial kickoff call with them. So once the customer has completed our initial assessment, they're then prompted to schedule that implementation kickoff call with the assigned implementation specialist through Calendly. So again, it's kind of an end-to-end seamless process that just helps the team move through every project that they're assigned to.
And you're really hitting on all the buzzwords. You're showing and living all the buzzwords that we like to talk about here at Smartsheet Marketing, but we're talking about scale through Control Center. We're talking about direct to customer visibility with the dashboard. We're talking about process automation across platforms using Bridge to talk to SendGrid, to bring data in from Survey Gizmo. This is fantastic. And I'd like to dig in a little bit on Bridge. So Modus and specifically you, Rachel, were beta users of Bridge many months ago, which is awesome. And now we've got it here in production with you guys. And for those of us in the session that didn't catch any of the talks earlier on Bridge, Bridge is our cross-platform automation engine. So you can think of Smartsheet automations as when you want to do things in Smartsheet. Bridge is one of those things where you can trigger actions on platforms outside of Smartsheet based on things that happen there, or vice versa. If something happens outside, you want to bring it in. The idea of there being, you even hit on it, we can eliminate repetitive work. And one of the things I also see there, not only does it just save a bunch of time, it makes for happier team members. It also makes for higher quality work, right? Because we know that there's never going to be a copy and paste error. Bridge is also all about systems integration. So we talked about various different systems. We know that every business process that you guys are running doesn't exist entirely in Smartsheet. That's the whole point of collaborative work management, right? You guys are doing work somewhere else. And then you can align it closely to your business. Because it is an easy to use tool, you're not trying to shoehorn in some solution that's not right for your business, and you're not trying to just kind of make do with what you got. So tell me a little bit about your experience being an early user of Bridge here and what you guys are seeing from it and where you think it's going.
Yeah, it was fantastic. That's been my experience from the very beginning. But just to kind of back up a step, what really led me to Bridge is when we started with Control Center, again, that was kind of our first step in our process. We had leveraged automated emails to advance the customer through the implementation lifecycle. And those emails were originally triggered out of Salesforce. So they relied on complex process builders that only our Salesforce administrator had access to update or add to. I don't have, a ton of experience in Salesforce specifically, so it was better that it was the Salesforce administrator, making those changes. But, as the team has grown and expanded, I had a problem that became more apparent kind of over the last year or so. The team really needed to be able to scale and make process improvements much more rapidly than we were able to, because Salesforce was truly the bottleneck. So I had thought for a while about searching for a replacement to Salesforce as the mechanism for our automated emails, while also being constrained by budget. So,
right.
It's a common theme, yes. And so when I attended Engage last year, I was actually talking through my challenges with one of Smartsheet's solutions consultants, and he had mentioned the Bridge beta. So I was really excited about it, didn't know a whole lot about what Bridge, the possibilities that it would, open for us. But when I sat in the Engage session on Bridge, I was sold completely. I could just see the possibilities of what it would allow our team to do. So I got started in the Bridge beta and had a few members of my team involved. We worked with Ingrid and Tony, who are fabulous. So shout out to them, and created a SendGrid API that would use updates to the implementation stage on our intake sheet to initiate various automated emails throughout the process. So that was the primary focus of the Bridge beta. The other project that we're working on is also being able to create projects in Harvest for time tracking activities that tie back to the implementation project. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that as I do a sneak peek of what we're working on in the future. But for the automated email initiative, we've completely replaced our prior process of using Salesforce to trigger automated emails through Bridge. And we've already made several updates to our process that would have otherwise taken months to complete due to the Salesforce backlog and testing requirements. So it's been fantastic for us.
That's amazing. And I really love that there was a focus there on your end customer experience. I mean, you guys are my customer. I love that we're helping you and we're working together on stuff like this. But I love that you guys are also working with your customers and giving them these beautiful emails that are easy to follow and they want to read them and they want to follow along. On that same vein of communication, like most enterprise organizations, I know that Modus has a number of chat and calls and CRMs and lots of different systems in place where colleagues talk to each other or Modus talks to customers. We also know that humans are creatures of pattern, right? And we like to kind of stay on the platforms that we're on. Tell me a little bit about how you guys are meeting your colleagues on the platforms they are already on and using those communication tools to talk to them about their work and move things along.
Yeah. So we definitely are heavy users of automation to trigger alerts. So while the Salesforce Smartsheet connector is great for transferring information to Smartsheet when something is ready to, kick off a project, it doesn't, I guess, get rid of that problem of, I don't want to have to babysit a sheet. So being able to have automated triggers and alerts alert me or other members of the team when a new project is ready has been great. I mean, it's been a huge time savings. And it also makes sure that I'm able to kind of meet my own internal SLAs as it relates to, from the time an opportunity is closed to when a resource is assigned that will start engaging with our sales rep and kick off the project. So, we're using automation to trigger alerts through email in various ways, but we're also heavy users of the integration with Slack. So as a project hits our intake sheet, we actually push it to the team channel, partially as a reminder to me to go out and, get a resource assigned, but also it's a way to kind of build excitement that, hey, we have another project ready to go. Let's get things kicked off and get the project moving. So it's been great.
Awesome. And if your folks are already on Slack, it's just one less thing that they also need to check there. Let's dig a little bit into the work you guys are doing with the Salesforce connector. I mean, you mentioned that was a really critical part of your workflow. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're very heavy users of the Smartsheet Salesforce connector, not just to populate our intake sheet, which is again the source of the implementation projects. We have all sorts of workflows that are built to really help, provide more robust reporting and workflows that we couldn't otherwise manage in Salesforce exclusively. So specifically for our intake sheet, through the connector, I'm alerted as soon as one of our sales executives closes an opportunity. We've built in logic based on what opportunities, are eligible for implementation support. And then the connector has also allowed me to continue building out reporting and fields that we do capture in Salesforce. So, Salesforce is kind of that universal place where the sales team lives. But there's a lot of reporting that I try to do kind of outside of Salesforce, and being able to, bring in additional fields to help with our reporting, identify additional trends that we're seeing. It's really allowed us to, scale and have, better, deeper conversations based on data.
Sure. And then continuing on that vein of communication and transparency and meeting people where they are, let's hit the final one, kind of in the holy trinity of talking with your salespeople, talking with your implementers, and now we've got to your actual customers. And this is a concept that I talked about over on the PMO track as well, that every project gets a dashboard, and feel free to share that directly with your customer. If it's your source of truth, it can be their source of truth too. So tell me a little bit about the work you guys are doing there.
Yeah, so this is an example of one of the project dashboards that gets created through Control Center. We provision it with every customer project that gets assigned to the team. And like I said, we do utilize this as really the single source of truth for all implementation activities. And it really allows the customer to interact directly with their dashboard while in implementation. So, the team really tries to encourage customers to make this dashboard their own, go in, look at the action items, look at the upcoming agenda items that we're going to be reviewing, poke around on the project plan. I think really helps the customer kind of have something tangible to look at and go in and interact with as they're going through the onboarding experience with us. And like I said, things that we've added to our project templates over time have been automated reminders. So, the template has, based on dates, it will say, okay, this is an upcoming task for this customer. So rather than, Cassie, who's a member of my team, having to go and manually remind the customer to do this action based on the dates that are populating, Smartsheet will do that for her. And so it's really allowed us, again, to reduce the number of manual touches the customer or a member of the team has to do, and allows them to focus their time on really the value add portion of their responsibilities, which is the customer coaching and change management type of consultation they're giving customers during the implementation experience.
Sure. One of the big advantages I've personally seen in areas like this is that kind of concept of self-serve. Like, don't email me every time you need something. Like, it's on the dashboard, that's live and current, go check it out. So I kind of keep a internal clock in my head of like, all right, that's the fourth time I've gotten a request for that kind of data, time to go build the dashboard for it. In the slide after this one, we're going to talk about the real like concrete outcomes, business outcomes, numbers that you guys got out of this. But I think this content is more interesting, more relevant, and probably more important to our users here, really on what you guys learned. Like, what does this mean for your team and your process and your organization?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things that we've learned over time. And like I said, I am working on kind of repeating the success we've seen with the onboarding implementation workflow and applying those types of best practices and ways to scale work processes across multiple functional areas. So one of those things is, planning is critical, but also understand that, it is going to be iterative. So the process that you kind of design at the beginning is likely not going to be, the end state as the team starts to actually follow the process and starts to use these tools to manage their workflow. So we use data flows. My workflow that I walked through is an example of that. But we use data flows and illustrations because I think it helps to understand conceptually how everything kind of works together. Even if you don't need to know like the nitty gritty of all of the integrations. But we use data flows and illustrations of the workflow to build the process and train the team. And, consistency was a big thing for us. So, we don't want to have to keep recreating the wheel every time we have a new customer. There are things that we've seen universally in almost every project that are important for us to make sure we're addressing with every customer that's managed through the team. And so making sure that those types of, steps or, those steps or, best practices are shared with customers consistently. Those are the types of things that we were working on, making sure we're happening consistently, regardless of what implementation resource on my team was assigned. The other thing specifically for Control Center, I would say, use the fewest number of project templates to effectively manage future updates. There came a point where we had multiple versions of our project plan, and it got to be overwhelming because a team member would say, well, can we add this row or can we do this? And it's like, well, I don't really want to have to do that across 10 different, source sheets. So try to reduce to the fewest number of project templates as possible to help manage future updates. and I know I've said this a number of times, but iteration is just super important. Understand, like, you can take it a step at a time and build on the process over time. And sometimes that's better, because I was really a strong proponent of empowering my team to identify additional efficiency gains and process improvements, because they're the ones that actually live and breathe this every day. I think that actually helped them embrace the process more by saying, hey guys, I'm not the expert. I just need you to be able to do your work efficiently and effectively. But you tell me, what else can we do? Think creatively. What else can we do to make your job as easy as possible, basically?
Yeah, that's even a step further than the self-serve thing. It's real ownership of these processes. Like, you can build the workflows in Smartsheet. Like, tell us how you want to do this and we'll get there. Yeah. Let's get on what everyone's asking about here. Like, what does this mean in the real world? Like, talk to me about dollar savings, time savings, quality of life. What do you guys see come out of implementing these processes?
Yeah, I mean, our savings have been significant. And I think that's why, we continue to just do more and more with Smartsheet, because we have seen the benefits of the processes that we've put in place. The ability to automate the majority of our workflow has resulted in probably close to 3,000 hours of savings total since we rolled this out in early 2018. And I had done an analysis, probably shortly after we rolled it out, and it has definitely saved us at least one full-time employee on the team. Wow. By, automating as many aspects of the team's process as possible. And it's also allowed us to not get to a point where we're not able to support the increased growth of the business. So, while we do have about 350 projects per year that we're managing, we've consistently seen over the last 3 to 5 years about a 40% growth in the number of projects that comes to the team. And so, it was really important to me knowing that, getting additional headcount on the team was going to come probably slower than our ability to scale, making sure that the team never got to a point where we weren't able to support the increased growth of the business. So, I mean, those are probably the most important ROI or benefits that we've seen, but there's countless other, I think, intangible things that we've benefited from as a result of the process.
I love that you guys are thinking about both of those, that you've actually run the calculations on what you think the savings are. But to me, the one that I can't figure out how to factor into my ROI calculator is that quality of life and quality of work output. If there isn't some human over there manually copying and pasting or manually triple checking the 4 places where we store data, it's just a better place to work. Right. Let's shift gears a little bit. We've been really kind of hitting hard on this customer implementation, and I understand that's the primary portion of your business. But once you get those customers onboarded, you guys have a phenomenal retention rate at 98.5% of your customers. Tell me about the kind of work that you do to help support those customers in their ongoing work with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this actually touches not only my team, but also other teams within the organization. So, once a customer has gone live, there are things that we have to help them with on an ongoing basis. And so that can come in the form of, making changes to their current program in a variety of ways, or they may decide that they want to purchase additional services with us, some of which could be standard, some of which could be considered a professional service. And so that's where my team comes into play, where we do some type of scoping activities for customers to make sure that we're able to build a solution that meets the requirements that they've set before us. Mm-hmm. And so, these kind of processes post-implementation are, again, another area where we've seen a lot of change and a lot of kind of growth over the last 2 years. We're managing a lot of that work. Kind of, I consider it like the way to define it is the revenue supporting work and the non-revenue supporting work. Mm-hmm. And so we're on the non-revenue supporting work, we're really managing it through a variety of forms, mm-hmm. Which the forms are great for getting the information into that appropriate team's, workflow or queue. But as we've added so many forms to help, determine where the work needs to fall within our business, it has gotten a little overwhelming. And we get questions all the time. Well, am I supposed to be using this form or is it this form? So there was definitely—
Or where is the form?
Where is the form? Exactly. So there was definitely a need. And something I've been thinking a lot about is how do we bring all of that together to make a more seamless end user experience for our internal employees.
Yeah, and that's something that we think we can actually help with today. So earlier in this track, or actually at the keynote with Mark, we announced the preview of Work Apps. So Work Apps is our no-code application platform where you can bundle your Smartsheet objects, your forms, your dashboards, your reports, also non-Smartsheet objects into one cohesive, intuitive experience. So if you didn't get a chance to check out that keynote, guys, please go back, take a look at that. Like I said, Rekka's got a session on actually building a Work Apps. We're going to show you a real one in the platform here today. So before we get into it, the idea here is kind of threefold. So one, we want everything to be streamlined, and I touched on that. We're going to pull in all the objects that your constituents of your program interact with, all the forms and dashboards. We're going to put them in one place, really intuitive, really easy to navigate, really easy to know which form to use or even where the form is at all. And that's all going to be role-based. So the sheets and the objects and the views that you see, even the dashboards that you see as the program owner, you can define what those are, and you can define what you want to show to the people that are going to be making those requests or interacting with your program. I'll show you what that looks like. And it's really important that these are purpose-built. These are really aligned with your business. Same kind of thing like Bridge, right? There's a lot of flexibility. That's one of the hallmarks of the Smartsheet platform. You get to define what you want in this application. You get to define how people interact with it and what they see. And you can do that all without building a line of code. So you don't have to go in, work with an outside developer. It's really, really defined by the business users. And it's going to be scalable. I personally have a dashboard where I keep track of all the things that I interact with and care about daily. It's got a single user. I'm putting that into a Work App. I'm in the process right now of building that out. So it's going to be really easy for me to navigate. My team, there's 4 of us. And Rachel, I really felt that when you talked about how proud you were of your guys. Like I love my team. I'm super, super proud of them. So that was cool to see. We have a Work App that we all operate out of as well. We run our weekly meeting out of it. We've got our good news section. We've got our hot topics. We overlook some metrics. We've got an intake sheet that we all get a reminder, hey, update this before we go into the meeting. But it's also scalable to your entire organization. So we've been using this internally at Smartsheet for a couple months now. We've got Work Apps that have many, many thousands of users in there. And think about corralling all of those users, and they know where the forms are and they know where the dashboards are. So like I said, announced today, we do have a preview out there in the wild. There's a link here in this session that you can click on and check it out. But I want to actually take us over into a Work App that we built for Rachel and Modus. So I want to be really transparent. Rachel's not had an opportunity to use this with her crew yet, but we have been talking with her. We built it based on the exact sheets and forms that she's been using and under our understanding of her work. So for business users, all the people that make requests of Rachel's team, this is what they see when they come in. They've got a dashboard with some contact information there over on the left. What are you going to do here over on the right? This is a Smartsheet dashboard. So if you can build a dashboard, you can build a Work App. So this is totally definable by you. And as I click over through these pages on the left here, I can see I'm on the wrong team. I want to be over here in the sales org. This is what the sales org sees when they come in. And then I can see the actual forms that they're going to make these requests of Rachel's team. So this whole concept of where is the form or which form should I be using no longer exists. It's all in the app. You're working with Rachel's team, go to the app. And then I'm going to see a report here that is all of the requests that I have made. So I can see the status, who that's assigned to, and what's happening here. So I can see that I've got 2 requests in progress and I've got 1 completed. Now, I talked about this whole role-based thing. For the purposes of this demo, I've got kind of super user access, and I can be both the sales org and Rachel's team. In all reality, you're probably only going to give any single person one of those, but I'm going to switch over and I'm going to be a member of Rachel's team. Rachel can see all the things that we're showing the sales org, but she's also going to get this management dashboard that is aggregated data on all the requests that are in there. So I can see the total amount of requests. I can see how many are active. I can see our days to average completion here. And then I can break it down and I can get more detailed on what types of requests we're seeing. And then because it's Smartsheet, I've got a bunch of data in there. Maybe I'm pulling it in from Salesforce. I can see things like the overall ARR impact or whatever other data I have. And again, this is a Smartsheet dashboard. If you can build a dashboard, you can build a work app, and this is entirely configurable to your programs and your business and what you guys want to see. And you can build out a bunch of these views. So if Rachel's team uses this for a while and they decided, hey, we need to put an executive view up there, we need to let management know what's going on, let's build another dashboard, let's drop it in. All this is done in a really easy builder experience. If you've got the sheets and dashboards built out already, take you minutes. So, Rachel, like I told everyone, I know you haven't had a lot of time to spend in this, but give me some of your initial impressions seeing a process like yours in something like this.
Yeah, I think Work Apps is super intuitive. I've gone in there a few times and have started to build out kind of conceptually what I'm looking to, the way I'm trying to solve the problem that we're experiencing. And it's very easy to use, very user intuitive. I compare it to the beta that we did with Bridge, which is fantastic. I love Bridge, but Bridge is very technical. And I'm not the most technical person
Sure.
when it comes to webhooks and writing all sorts of, code. So this was actually very intuitive to use, very easy to build. I would say, anyone on my team could go out and use Work Apps to build apps for helping to bring, things together. And I think that's really the problem that we're looking to solve. And I'm excited to roll it out internally because, we have so many different workspaces. We have so many different teams that are now doing, a variety of different things. And so I think it helps just from a better way to bring things together. It's going to help us package those types of requests in one place.
Yeah. And you were the first customer in the world, I think, actually, the first non-Smartsheet full-time employee in the world to get into that builder experience. And if I recall, we didn't give you a lot of support. We kind of just said like, hey, run with it. So apologies for running a little bit of an experiment on you. But tell us about getting in there the first time you're on that beta. What was your experience like? And I'm like you, like I can get around Smartsheet, but I'm not a technical person either. I think you're actually quite a bit more technical than I am. So I'm curious to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, it was very easy. I think many of the, from an end user, the actions that I take in Smartsheet are the same types of actions that you can take in work apps to have the same type of results. So it doesn't require any significant technical knowledge to build these apps. It's just simply as long as you have like the sheet or the form or the dashboard that you're looking to bring together. It's just a kind of a simple matter of like uploading that and then kind of maneuvering things around to put it in a flow that makes sense. So my initial experience with it it's been very easy. I mean, there's a few things that I've, passed along to the team.
It's a beta, or it was a beta at the time.
Exactly. But for the most part, it's really easy to use. And I'm excited to roll this out to the team and figure out how can we continue to utilize it and solve different problems that we're experiencing within the business.
Very cool. Well, as a seasoned program manager, that input is really, really valuable to us. So thank you for taking the time to spend in Work Apps and try that out. We're coming to the top of our time. We got a couple minutes left. You've hit multiple times on iterative improvement in your programs. And we've gotten hints at a little bit, like maybe there's some resource management thing, this Work Apps thing. Tell us what is next on your team's project list.
Yeah, so there's kind of two big initiatives that we're working on. Actually, I should say three. We're working on continuing to create automated workflows across all functional areas of the team. I'm particularly interested in time tracking. So the team today is keeping track of their time, but we need to be able to break it out between billable and non-billable work. And this is another one of those things where we use an application called Harvest for the team to keep track of their time, but they have to manually create that project to tie their time back to. And so, if it's something that we can automate, why not? So we're actually actively working with Ingrid and Tony on creating an API with Harvest to automatically spin up a time tracking project in Harvest at the same time the team gets assigned a new project with a customer. The other thing that I'm looking at specifically for my customer success function is capacity planning and resource management. So, as I look at assigning additional accounts to their book of business, I'm trying to figure out, at what point does that CSM kind of become tapped out and is no longer able to take on new accounts. So I'm really excited about continuing to look at the capacity planning functionality that 10,000 Feet has and figuring out ways that I can utilize that to make decisions within my team about account management activities.
Super cool. And we've talked with you a couple times in forums like this. So I'm excited to hear about the projects that you're working on here and have you back in a couple months and see what you've learned. Want to thank you so much for your time today. I think this has been really insightful. I always learn a bunch when we do these kind of things. I hope everyone that has joined us today online has learned a bunch. For those of you that are out there that want to learn more about Work Apps and want to sign up for the preview, there's a link here on the video and there's another one there on the website. We've got a URL up there for Bridge if you want to learn more about cross-platform automation. If you want to learn more about the work that Rachel and the Modus team are doing, there's a modus.com URL up there. Thanks everyone so much for your time, and a special thank you to our guest, Rachel Shealy from Modus. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.